The Firmament, Finding the Truth. Please pause and read. We are told the way seasons happen is because the Earth is tilted on an axis at about 23.4 degrees and orbits around the Sun at about 66,600 miles per hour. Interesting number choices there. So let's take a look at how seasons really work. In part 14 and 15, we talked about how the Sun and Moon are close to us in the firmament and they run their circuits around the Earth, and the Sun's light is being reflected off the firmament, which causes the patterns for day and night. And we also covered the moon phases. Now for seasons, take a look at this. During summer months for the United States and regions close to the center of the Earth, the Sun is moving in a circular path along the Tropic of Cancer. Since the Sun is smaller and closer to us in the firmament, it makes sense as to why it's hotter in the US during the summer, especially in places like Texas, Arizona, and Florida, since the Sun is right above these areas during those summer months. As the months go by, the Sun migrates outward towards the Tropic of Capricorn. So when it's December, the Sun is all the way out there in what they would call the southern hemisphere. So as the Sun's light and heat is further away from us, at that point, it would make sense as to why it's colder in the winter months for the United States. If you have a heat lamp and hold it over your head, it's going to be warmer. But if you take the heat lamp and move it across the room, you won't be experiencing as much heat anymore. So when the Sun is further away, you still get some heat, but it's further out there. And you can see as I progress through the months, the Sun gets a little closer to the United States. And then as I go towards the winter months, you can see how the Sun migrates outward towards the Tropic of Capricorn. So this is why it's hot for South Africa and Australia during December, but it's colder for the United States. The Sun is right over South Africa and Australia during December, but further away from the US during this time. Now let's talk about how the days are longer for the US during the summer months, but shorter during the winter months. The sunlight is being reflected off the firmament, and remember, the firmament is higher the closer you get to the center of the Earth. For me, I live in Texas, so for summer months where I'm at, when the Sun is moving along the Tropic of Cancer, if you look at the date and time below, you'll notice how the sunlight becomes visible around 6 a.m. and the sunlight vanishes after 9 p.m. And if we zoom out, you can see the crescent light pattern of how the Sun reflects off the firmament during summer months to create the longer daylight. This is also why there's a 24-hour sun in Alaska. Again, look at the light pattern the sunlight makes reflecting off the firmament, and look at Alaska. When the Sun rises in Alaska, it gets closer to them, but notice how the Sun doesn't go down below the horizon. It gets further away due to perspective, but then it comes back up again. So you can see in this video, when the Sun is close to the horizon, the Sun is actually on the other side of the Earth. But since the Sun is closer to the center of the Earth moving along the Tropic of Cancer, the Sun is still visible to those in Alaska, and it seems to never set below the horizon. Now, if we look at the winter months, you'll see how the Sun is moving along the Tropic of Capricorn. It's further away from the US, and it's creating a different crescent light pattern as it reflects off the firmament, since the Sun is now moving along a path where the firmament is lower to the ground. So the light pattern is now going to look different. And this makes sense as to why the Sun rises a little later and why the Sun sets earlier as well. It's due to how the light is being reflected off the dome-shaped firmament. Now let's talk about why the Sun appears to set in different locations throughout the year. You may or may not have noticed this, but the Sun sets in different locations according to your unique position. Here's a real-life example. I took these photos from my position in Texas, and they were taken in late July and early August when the Sun was moving close to the Tropic of Cancer. If you look at the fence, you'll notice that the Sun is setting to the far right side during the summer months here in Texas. But now, if you look at this photo taken in late December, you'll see how the Sun is setting to the far left side of the fence during the winter months. Even after the Sun has gone below the horizon, you can see a comparison between the sunlight between the summer and winter months due to where the Sun sets according to my position. And if you compare the position of where the Sun was setting in the summer and winter months with the flat Earth map, you can see where the Sun was at during the summer months during sunset and where it was at during the winter months during the sunset. And that brings us to why the Sun looks lower or higher on the horizon throughout the year. Again, this will also depend on where you live on the Earth, but this is an example from New York. You can see how in the winter months like January and February, the Sun appears lower on the horizon. Again, this is due to perspective, since the Sun is all the way out here towards the Tropic of Capricorn. Remember, the further something is away from you, the lower on the horizon it'll appear. But you'll notice as the months go by and the Sun migrates closer towards the Tropic of Cancer, the angle of the Sun appears to be higher in the sky, since it's getting closer to that New York location during those months. And then after the summer months, the sun migrates back towards the Tropic of Capricorn and gets further away from New York again. So then the sun will appear lower on the horizon again. It's all due to perspective. And this is also the same reason the moon appears higher or lower on the horizon as well, but the unique part about the moon is that it actually migrates to and from the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn at a much faster rate than the sun. So even though the moon is moving slower than the sun going on its circuit around the Earth in a circle, the moon moves faster going to and from the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, as you can see here. So it takes roughly a few weeks for the moon to migrate fully from the Tropic of Capricorn to Cancer and back to Capricorn again, as you can see here. And again, that's why the moon can appear higher or lower on the horizon throughout the weeks depending on where it's at between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn. The last thing we'll talk about in this video is that it sure is interesting how the northern and southern tips of Africa appear to be incredibly dry. It seems like it could have something to do with the sun's pathway directly over those regions throughout the year. You can see when it's the month of October, the sun's path goes directly over the southern tip of Africa. Fast forward to November, it's still along the southern tip of Africa, even in December, January, and February. So that southern tip of Africa is experiencing 5 months of direct sun over it. Now for the middle part of Africa, if you look at March, the sun is going over that middle part for March, but then as I fast forward to April, the sun isn't over the middle part anymore. So now we go to the northern part of Africa. You'll see April, May, June, and it's still going over that northern part. Look at that trail and how dry it is in that area and how perfectly the sun's pathway matches up with that. Now we go to July and August. But again, just like the southern tip, you can see the northern tip is also experiencing about 5 months of direct sun right over it. So it's very possible that the sun's pathway throughout the year could have something to do with why these regions appear to be dry and arid. Things that make you go, And in the next video, we'll talk about eclipses in part 17 of the Firmament, Finding the Truth.